Give John a hand. The job he's doing for California and the support he's giving the Hillary. I want to thank Mayor Fury for welcoming. Republicans have control of the sound system. Now is it working? I want to thank Mayor Fury, Senator Ben Allen, Assemblyman Mike Gibson, former Assemblyman. Thank you for welcoming me here. I don't know what we're going to do if this doesn't work, but I'll figure it out as we go along. Look, first I'm glad to be back in Torrance. I love it here. I'm glad to see all of you. Secondly, what John said is a pretty good summary of this election. I want to talk a little about why it is so important for California to send a signal to America and the world on Tuesday, as well as in November. Because even though the Republican candidate has offended many of us by some of the things he said, he is a cruder example of a debate that is raging across the world. All across the world, you've got a lot of what we're facing here. Too many years of stagnant wages, rising inequality, declining upward mobility, frustration for people everywhere, and people then having identity conflicts rooted in our differences. I mean, look at this crowd. California and sort of our beacon for diversity. We have always understood that we were stronger if we embraced our differences. This community has the highest percentage of Japanese Americans of any city in California. It's hard to remember now, but leading up to and after World War II, a lot of our fellow citizens who were Japanese were interned in camps. 2 of them were in my native state of Arkansas. And a friend of mine, who's now almost 90, was so appalled at what had happened to the Japanese Americans that she went in to teach the children and to make sure the communities at least treated them as respectful guests. And she spent a whole lifetime trying to recover the history of what happened there to make sure no one ever, and we never did anything like that again. Yeah. And now here we are, talking about building a wall between the U.S. and Mexico. Talking about not letting any more Muslims in America. One of the reasons I have been so proud of Hillary in this campaign is that she was the first person to say, and in every speech reminds us, that California suffered the most recent terrorist incident at San Bernardino, and the people who perpetrated it were converted over the internet, over the social media. So you can build all the walls you want. Have at it across the Rio Grande River. You can build a wall across the Canadian border. A lot of foreigners in Canada, you know. You can build a seawall across the Pacific. Now we're in a recession. Then you can build your seawall across the Atlantic. We're verging on a full-scale depression. Then you send the Navy to the Gulf of Mexico to block everybody out. Oh, we have to send all the airplanes. Get the Air Force up in the sky. You still can't keep the social, which is why Hillary said, embrace our diversity and tell people that ought to be the model. We need Muslims who love freedom and hate terror to help us win the battle of hearts and minds. All over the world, people are looking. What are we going to do? Yes, everybody has virtually faced in every country stagnant wages, rising inequality, declining upward mobility. What are we going to do about it? Can we do something about it? When someone says make America great again, you know what that means? That's a code phrase. Means, okay, we can't do much about it, so I'll go back to the way it used to be, and you and your crowd will get a bigger piece of the static pie. You really want to spend the rest of your life fighting over a pie that never gets bigger? When if we are creative, if we do what Hillary said, we build a modern infrastructure in transportation, in water pipes, so no children have elevated blood levels in their blood from rusty pipes. If we put up 500,000 solar panels in 4 years and the rest of America learns, they may not be as sunny as California, but they can do as well with cheap, clean energy that liberates us from climate change and puts America to work. If we bring back modern manufacturing jobs that you can do anywhere in the world, because labor costs are not the factor anymore that transportation materials and energy are. You give us cheap, clean energy, and you give us a skilled workforce, we can save the transportation costs. We got the biggest market in the world. We can make anything in America. And we have to remember that we're still, in the end, a small business country. 2/3 of our jobs come from the kind of people you see every day on the street in Torrance. And the United States has a law that I enforce vigorously called the Community Reinvestment Act. We lost a lot of that in the crash. We had to stop Wall Street from wrecking Main Street again, but you don't want Wall Street to indirectly strangle Main Street because banks don't make loans to small businesses. She will reinforce that law again and get ourselves going from the grassroots up to small business. If you do that, we can all rise together if we get the barriers down. Barrier number one. There are too many people carrying too much college debt around. And there are too many people who are afraid they can't finish. And there are too many people who get perfectly good jobs without a 4-year college degree if they had skills training, and we re-dignified skills training in America and made it popular to do what the economy needs. So she proposes to invest a lot of money in training people to do the jobs for which there is a shortage in America today. And just so you don't think I'm making this up, I was in Louisiana not very long ago, and I asked the mayor of New Orleans, I said, a friend of mine from here just called me and said that there were 7,600 jobs open just for welders south of New Orleans, between New Orleans and the Gulf of Mexico. Is that possible? He said, oh yeah, and I could fill them within 3 square blocks if we had the training. Hillary wants to give them the training. Everywhere in America, here and everywhere. Second, she wants people to be able to graduate from college debt-free. Now, there's been a difference in this primary because tuition-free college at public schools sounds good. The problem is that plan requires every state to come up with 1/3 of the money. I haven't talked to a single member of the California legislature, the most progressive legislature in America, that gave you the $15 minimum wage, that's given you paid leave, that's given you all these things we need, who says that you can afford to do that. Under Hillary's plan, you don't tax legislators that are overburdened, and you don't burden legislatures who aren't interested, and there's a lot of them that aren't interested in this. Instead, she says we can have debt-free without asking the states to come up with the money. How do you do it? First, you include more than public schools. You include historically black colleges and universities, small private schools that are dealing with people from working class families, and first and second generation immigrants. You give everybody who needs free tuition, free tuition. The ones who need more, you give more with a Pell Grant increase. The ones who are kind of caught in the middle and can't pay the whole way, you give 10 hours a week of work study money. But in the end, you organize it so that every single person that wants to go to college can get a good college education and get out debt-free. That's the most important thing. Then, let's all be honest. The big question now is, what about people who've got debt they've already run up? How many of you know somebody like that? Raise your hand. Okay, so I have been a walking social science project in this campaign. Now, I talk to people just everywhere I go. And I'll just give you an example. A couple weeks ago, I went up to this little town north of where Hillary and I live, and I bought a pair of jeans from a lady I know because I knew she had a child who was finishing one of our state universities in New York. I said, "How's your boy doing?" She said, "Oh, he's doing great. He's doing a great job, great grades. He's going to get a good job." I said, "Does he have any debt?" She said, "Quite a bit." "What's the interest rate?" 9%. I said, "You still have a home mortgage?" She said, "Sure I do." "Did you refinance it?" She said, "Of course." "What's your interest rate?" "Under 4.
What?
Okay, so the first thing is, we need to know this. A college loan is the only loan in the entire United States that you cannot refinance. Hillary says, let's let everybody refinance, and 25 million young Americans would save an average of $2,000 overnight, and the more they owe, the more they would save. That could help everybody right away. Secondly, she wants to give everybody 2 options to get rid of the debt they've got. One is if they have a debt anywhere around the national average, which is approximately, is now up to about $25,000, 24,500 to 25,000. So her numbers were done 15 months ago, but you'll get the idea. Her plan would allow any young American who's willing to do 2 years in an AmeriCorps National Service Program, and then come home and do 1 year of any kind of public service related work. That is, you work in a drug treatment center, you can work as a firefighter, you can work at the teacher's aide, anything that's public service related, you do that, you get over and above your pay $23,500 totally tax free to throw against the debt and get rid of it. Now, if you don't want to do that, or you can't, you have the other option. You can turn your college debt into a mortgage, like your home mortgage. And let me explain what I mean by that. Everybody in this audience who's under 30 has a legitimate chance to live to be 100 years old, and to do it without the specter of Alzheimer's or other dementia because of the advances in biomedical research. Therefore, your college education is worth more than any home you will ever own. Why do you get 20 to 30 years to pay off a home at a fixed rate every month, which allows you to go on with your life, and not your college education? So she would say, no matter how much you owe, you should be able to pay your loan off over 20 years and never have to pay more than 10% of your after-tax income per month on that loan. And if you paid it for 20 years and you still owed something, the rest would be forgiven. Now, I think what this would do, and by the way, we're talking, you owe 10% if you borrowed $200,000 to go to med school. Or I met a young lawyer from California who'd already spent a year as a deputy prosecutor who owed $100,000 because she went to law school. So think what would happen. First you refinance, then you get to pay back fixed rate a month. First, everybody can move out of their parents' house. Now you're laughing, this is a huge issue. There are huge numbers of Americans that can't move out of their parents' house because they can't make a rent payment and a loan payment. Second, if you had a job you'd like to take because you love the work, but it pays less than the one you got, you can't do it today because you wouldn't be able to make the loan payment. You could under this system because if your income goes down, your loan payment goes down. Third, suppose all your life what you really wanted to do was start a little business. Say you wanted to open an organic bakery in Torrance. Well, if you got a loan, college loan debt, you're toast. You can't go to a bank and get a loan. Your credit rating's shot. But you could if you had this system. Why? Because the banker would see, number one, you won't be ever have to pay more than 10% of your after-tax income per month. And two, if like most small businesses, you don't make any money for a year or two, you won't owe anything on the loan because it's tied to your income. If we did this, it could liberate the energies of millions and millions of young Americans so we could all rise together. That's what America needs. The other thing we need to do is quit playing politics with immigration reform and pass a comprehensive immigration reform act. There are 11.5 million of our fellow citizens are people that share this, undocumented American people, living with about 5 million people who are here either with full documentation or full citizenship, that every day's life is a question of what happens to DACA and DAPA. Will the kids be kicked out of school? Will the families be divided? Will all these things happen? This is crazy. Look at you. We have the youngest, most diverse workforce of any big economy in the world. It is a priceless asset. Why are we debasing our best asset instead of enhancing it? That is what we should be doing, and it will be a top priority for Hillary to pass that. I can tell you, in the last 10 years, we've only had one chance to pass comprehensive immigration reform. In 2007. Because for all my disagreements with, at least President George W. Bush wasn't afraid of immigrants. That is, he was prepared to go compete for their votes and, you know, just be normal. There's only one person left in this race who voted for that bill and embraced it when the farm workers said vote for it, when all the immigrants said vote for it. One person. That's Hillary. You know she cares about this. I'll put this up here. I didn't hold on. Third thing we need to do is to recognize if we're going to lift the economy together, we have to get more women in the workforce. When I served before, and we all rose together, we moved 100 times as many people from poverty into the middle class as when President Reagan was in office, by getting rid of trickle-down economics and maximizing human potential. We were always in the top 10 countries in the world in the percentage of women in the workforce. We're down to 19th now. And that's because we're one of only 7 countries in the world that doesn't have paid leave. Oh, California does, New York does, a handful of places do, but the country doesn't. So Hillary wants paid leave, equal pay, and affordable child care, and every man in America should be for it because it will enable the economy to grow faster. We can all rise together. Now, there are a lot of other discrete populations that need to be part of our economy. There are too many young people in prison for too long for nonviolent offenses. They need to be let out so they can go to work and contribute to our future, but you can't just open the doors. You have to give education, training, job placement, and there has to be a guarantee that they can't be discriminated against so they can start again and America can start again so we can all rise together. It's a scandal that the veterans' unemployment rate is still higher than the national average, even though virtually every veteran that gets out of the service is trained to do something at a high level that is needed in the American economy. One big reason is we fought 2 wars at the same time. We had too many deployments, and too many of these veterans come home with post-traumatic stress syndrome, which manifests itself sometime in their first year on the job. Hillary says we need a sweeping, comprehensive national effort to establish a community-based mental health system that will help us not only fight the prescription drug and heroin epidemic, but deal with the veterans' challenges so we can all rise together. The fastest growing group of American consumers are Americans with disabilities. But you can't consume if you don't have any money to consume with. Without exception, in the pockets of America where there is an aggressive effort to put more people with disabilities in the workforce, they have the highest attendance rates, high productivity rates, and make massive contributions to our economy without displacing other workers. Hillary wants this to be the rule all over America. You put Americans with disabilities in the workforce with their abilities, we will grow faster and we will all rise together. We have got to do that. Now, if we do this, we can have shared prosperity. If we emphasize our science and technology, if we lead the world to clean energy, we can do all this. But we're threatened by two things. And these two factors may be the most important reason that you should vote for, especially Tuesday. There are two things that can derail the potential I see in this crowd from leading the world to a whole new era of peace and prosperity. One is continued political gridlock in Washington. She's the only person you can vote for that has always been able to find some way to get Republicans to work with her on important issues, whether it was the children's health insurance program, or increasing adoptions out of foster care by 80%, with the leader of the House Republicans when I was president, or as a senator, making sure that veterans coming home with traumatic brain injuries were cared for, that people that were in the Guards and Reserves got the same health care that regular veterans did, that small farmers and manufacturers in places that had been left out and left behind in New York were helped. They were mostly Republicans. She didn't care. She thought they deserved not to be invisible, and they had a chance to be a part of the future. When I was helping Hillary run for re-election as senator from New York, we had what in New York was a big event. The Republican head of the Farm Bureau on Long Island endorsed her for re-election. And the press was aghast. So they go up to this guy and they said, "Joe, I thought you were a Republican." He said, "I thought I was too." "Well, how can you be for her?" He said, "Look, all these politicians sound great in elections. All I know is I spend my whole life trying to help these little farmers hang on to their land. And once we elected her, she actually did something to help them hang on to their land. I am for her." That's what we need in the White House today. When she was Secretary of State, the Republicans liked it when she worked with the Muslim Brotherhood president of Egypt to stop a shooting war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. They liked it when she got those sanctions against Iran and got Russia and China to go along. They liked it when we reduced the chances of accidental or intentional nuclear exchanges with Russia with something called the New START Treaty that her team negotiated and which required 67 votes in the Senate. That's a lot of Republicans. She got them. You need to have a country to understand it. And I will say again, let's come back to where we started. All over the world, people are facing these crises. How are we going to deal with our diversity? How is Europe going to deal with the biggest influx of refugees since World War II? You just going to go home and lock the door and put up the walls? Or are you going to figure out how to build a bridge to opportunity that everybody can share? Everybody's going to be watching us on this. Hillary's the only person who can not only keep us safe enough, but give us the space we need to grow. And if we do that, we will be able to grow and we'll pull the rest of the world with us in a positive direction. If we close up our tent and say all that matters is our differences, others will follow that lead and we'll all start shrinking together. And it will not be a pretty sight. So I know the tendency is just to review the Republican nominee's greatest hits and all the outrageous things that he said. But you need to understand, all over the world, people think, I'm not getting ahead. I've hit a black wall. I'm worried about all this change. Time out, I'm going to go in and close the door. Look at you. This is America's future. Young, old, middle-aged. Labor. Business. Small and large. Manufacturing, service, everything. We have to prove that our model works. This is an election about the future versus the past, about unity versus division, about bridges, not walls, about whether you honestly believe we can have shared prosperity. In a community we share because we can be citizens together. If you don't, you can vote for a person who's promised to give you a Supreme Court who will continue to restrict voting rights, not expand them. Threaten labor rights, not protect them. Threaten women's rights or gay rights, not protect them. Look, I know it's easy to forget sometimes in the midst of our troubles what our blessings are. But look around the crowd. I'm telling you, I was a governor for 12 years. I did my best 4 years president for 8 years. It's the only time in 50 years. The only time in 50 years when we've all risen together. Because we grew the economy from the middle out and the bottom up. And everybody was included. I understand why those coal miners are mad, but the answer is not to promise them they can have the economy they had in the 1960s. The answer is not to deny the evident truth of climate change. The answer is to go back and get them and take them along for the ride to the future too. So, in its simplest form, that's what it's about. I'm telling you, I've had the honor to work since I left the White House all over the world. And I can promise you, the most deadening thing in life is when people get up every day and they look in the mirror and they think every tomorrow is going to be just like yesterday. I am disempowered. I cannot help my children. I cannot broaden my horizons. On the other hand, the most empowering thing is to know you can change things for the better for yourselves, your children, your grandchildren, your communities. That's what this whole election's about.